Och kör. Yes, and we should be live. We welcome everyone who's watching our panel here today. We're going to talk about running some game projects. I have some fabulous people with me today who has quite some experience in this subject. I can add that all of them have been students at the university here in Skövde, so they also have quite some their own experience from Spjuth 2 and other similar courses. And today we will pick this topic not only to aim towards Spjuth 2, of course. It's supposed to apply to all type of smaller game projects you're planning to do. I mean, the summer is coming up. Perfect opportunity for some hobby project with your fellow coworkers, student people. But yeah, my name is Tao. I work for Sweden Game Arena as the community overlord, hosting these types of events, hoping to add some extra spark, flavor, and value to your time here in Skövde and to be a part of the game community here, as these fantastic people are. So I think we start with some introductions. John?
Yeah, hi. My name is John. I'm a producer at Thunderful Games. Technically, I do work for the studio located in Skövde, but I'm currently based in Gothenburg until all this pandemic stuff goes away. Yeah, I've been doing games and game-related things for almost 10 years now. I realized it's pretty weird getting into those double digits.
Yeah, Lena?
So my name is Lena and I work at Pieces Interactive here in Skövde as lead animator. I've been working there since, is it 2016, I think? I started spelutveckling animation program 2013. And I've lived here since, originally from Stockholm, but I like Skövde.
Stefan?
Yeah, my name is Stefan, and I'm the CEO of Coffee Stain Studios in Skövde. And that is a new title for me since last year. I started my journey as a programmer and was part of starting Coffee Stain Studios in 2010, and was actually quite fun that the start of Coffee Stain was actually Spjuth 2 with our first title, so that's why it's extra fun to be here and talk with you all today.
Yeah, maybe we should start there. As I said, everyone here has been at the university, done their Spjuth 2 and other projects as well, of course. What do you remember from your first early projects? Any extra fun anecdotes? I guess Stefan already cheated with one here. Jon?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot. My first ever game I ever developed was at the University of Skövde. It's my first first year student project, which was a weird sort of cooperative monster hunting egg collecting game. I don't know. I think my favorite memory from that is my co-designer, who spent almost the entire project trying to convince me that he was a figment of my imagination. Like I just imagined him and he wasn't real. It's a pretty interesting time. He's still a good friend. I talk to him almost every day, so it's a good start to a great friendship, and we worked together and had a lot of fun as well.
So you still talk to your imaginary friends from school? Yes, okay.
Yeah,
Lena?
I don't remember so much from that project. Like it was really fun, and I learned so much because it was also like the first like real game, because I don't really count Spjuth 1 because everybody was so confused and like opened the engines for the first time, and but it was really fun doing Spjuth 2 because people started to understand their role in the teams. Like the art guys did the art, the programmers did the programming, and it kind of felt for real for the first time. So I have some good memories from late night crunching before deadlines, just fooling around. working.
Did you guys have engines?
Yeah, that's my
Oh.
thought exactly.
But I'd like to actually add on to that what you said, Lena, with that it felt really cool that it was the first time we kind of got together and actually saw what it was. I mean, previously it's just you study, you go to class and stuff, but here we got 10 weeks to do something, which strangely enough felt like a lot of time back then. I mean, right now doing a project in 10 weeks seems like
Oh my god.
maybe 50 weeks. I don't know, but yeah, that was probably my best memory to, like, in the end when you saw that things actually worked and you were like, oh, this could actually be a game if we had a few more weeks. No, it can't. But
by then it felt like that.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, good times. Yeah, I remember ours as
Yeah,
well.
like it's really important. Like game project 2 is the most fun you'll have. Really, like take care of this time.
Yeah. Yeah, we were sure we were gonna release on the Wii, so we made a game for the Wii. That's not how publishing works nowadays. But we almost got the Wii controller working for PC, so that was quite fun to work with. But good times. Let's see. So, if you got 10 weeks today to do a game project, how do you think you'd approach it? What would you go for? Would you do a full game, a vertical slice, proof of concept? Any?
I mean, like Stefan said, 2 weeks back then felt like a lot of time, and now it's nothing. Like, it feels so strange trying to fit anything even remotely sort of finished in that space. Like, getting a prototype or a proof of concept of a mechanic or a few mechanics or maybe a level, something like that, seems doable in 10 weeks, depending on the team size, I guess. But like, trying to build a full game to some kind of qualities, that seems insane to me. And I had that idea back then when I studied as well. Like, I'm guilty of that as well. But it's like, there's so much stuff that just sort of sneaks up on you, and you realize that you have to spend time on QA testing and like fixing bugs and all of those things that makes it so difficult building anything like high quality in that time.
Yeah, I'd say you can do a full game, but it needs to be really, really, really tiny. Like one small mechanic, one character. Like, just narrow the scope a lot more than you think.
Yes.
Just make the game in 5 weeks, and then solve bugs and testing in 5 weeks.
yeah. I mean, if you can make the game in 5 weeks, then I think you can get something really nice at the end of 10 weeks for sure.
Do you think I can make a game in 5 weeks if I say this is what I'm gonna do in 5 weeks, or will I make it in 10 then?
You probably have to
No.
yeah.
Think 2 weeks maybe.
Yes.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think that making an exactly 100% full game, it is impossible to do, like, those last 10% that take 90% of the time, but you're going to be surprised of how much you're going to be able to do. If I'd say, like, from my perspective, I like to, in these short terms, rather focus on the proof of concept of something very, very simple, and add more to it once that's nailed. But I mean, also, what happens if you fail getting the project? Not much you learn from that as well. So there's no really right or wrong, but
I'd say it's more fun for you to actually have something finished in 10 weeks that you can actually start up and play, whether it's very small, but still, like, this is my first game and it's finished. Like, to make a proof of concept kind of implies that you're gonna keep working on it, and that's not always the case. So yeah, it's all about the scope, really. Like,
yeah, and I think that's, for me, working as a producer, that's something that I struggle with daily, like understanding scope and what that means and what we actually think we can manage to do in 10 weeks or 15 weeks or 20 weeks or whatever. It's really, really hard, even if you've been doing it for a while at least. And I think both Stefan and Lena has great points about what you can and should be doing. It's, I guess, figuring out sort of your goals and what you want to get out of that project as a group. Like if you really want that sort of pride and satisfaction, I guess, of having a completed game that's sort of nice and polished and feels great to play, then that's something you can do. But you need to be super scared of scope and like being really simple in what you do. But I think I would go for like a more proof of concept thing. I think there's more room to explore if you don't really feel that need to like make it great. Like you can make it feel okay or nice, so that you know that okay, these mechanics maybe work, or this art style works in these environments or whatever. But like understanding more than that might not.
You mentioned satisfaction, so I could segue to an interesting thought about Satisfactory, which is the game we've been making since 2016. I think we started.
That's more than 10 weeks.
That's more than 10 weeks, but the first prototype was made in 10 weeks of the game, and it's creepily how accurate that prototype still matches the core game loop. And I think there's something interesting in that. I'm sure it wasn't made by students now. We were a team that had been working together for quite a while, so we had that going for us. But the fact that the game loop was so very alike, and we've been working with that game for 4 or 5 years now and still aren't done and still have more stuff to do, which I mean shows that you can do a lot, but yeah, making that to the full game.
Yeah, that's really cool.
There's you can have how many steps you want after that, and just add layers, features, whatnot. But you can do cool stuff in 10 weeks.
Well, I guess that's kind of the agile process, right? That's how it's supposed to work, and game dev is quite advanced in that. And I thought about that, Stefan. When it came to, I mean, I guess you started as some prototype just to do proof of concept. How much did the project change during the first 10 weeks, would you say? From what you thought you were going to make in 10 weeks to what actually felt like something you'd had to use?
Are you speaking specifically about when we did Satisfactory? How much it changed?
Like from when you did the first 10 weeks, is that it actually is now very close to what you've been building since. Did the process of getting during those 10 weeks, is the same thing what you got out as you started making? Would you say?
Actually,
testing?
No, it was, and that's I think now in hindsight a quite solid thing to go by. That the idea was quite simple. I just want to have things go in from one factory to another on conveyor belts. That was the idea, and that was what is just the core. So with a strong core, you can do a lot. Or you can have many different small things maybe that will work together in the end, and hopefully with the spider web will hold everything together. But it's hard to define a solid core, but I'd say it's very, very, very helpful if you have it.
Oh, definitely. Would you say you've found the fun during those 10 weeks already?
Yeah. Yeah, we saw when people played it and had fun for hours with it, just spaghettiing out conveyor belts with our broken prototype. That's what created the game.
And I think that's a really strong base, iterating on that, like you did with Satisfactory. If you have that core, that means that you can sort of add and remove features depending on scope, and you can sort of be a lot more adaptable. Like if you have this big huge idea of all these things that need to be in there for it all to come together and work, then that's scary, because you might not get to one point, or you realize that something is a lot more complex than you realize, and cutting that out means changing a whole lot of different things about the game as well. That's something I think, going back to the idea of building a project for 10 weeks, keeping things sort of modular, or like allowing yourself to like have components that you can add or remove depending on time is, I think, a great way to manage scope for projects, no matter what size, really.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, actually, to just think of it as parts that you can remove, and it's not essential for it.
So start with core, build from there.
A very simple core loop that you can build on.
We solved game development. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, we did the same with our first game, Bloodline Champions. It was a game project 3 back then, when it actually still was around, and it's coming back. But first they did something, I wasn't in project group to start with, but they did a really big game and they had so much an idea, so it's very light. And then when they started playtesting, we felt like the fun was in just the PvP, so we just took away all the other parts and just did the real PvP. That was when and that was the core concept and core product, which made find the fun.
Yeah, I think it was a similar thing for us as well. We in our game, you're just falling and you can stop your fall. So we just did a character that fell, and then you could like press a button to stop it from falling, and then we could like build levels, remove levels if we didn't have time, but just we just got the mechanic up very fast.
Yeah, let's see. We have talked about scope a bit, but we also have a question from the chat actually on any tips on defining a realistic time scope for projects with a team. As you said, there can be a lot less time than you think. Why would your approach be to date? How would you scope?
I mean, we are doing that right now for the project we're working on, and it's difficult. It's a lot of guessing and trying to sort of think of all the edge cases and problems and things you want to include in the game. And I think a lot of it comes down to experience, like having gone through that sort of whole process of taking a game from idea to a finished product and releasing it helps a lot in terms of understanding what might come up and sort of problems you might have. But I think this is me as a producer, and I'd love to hear maybe Lena, who's more sort of in touch with the actual game development side of it. But for me, it's like taking time, sitting down and talking about things before doing it. Might be tricky to sort of feel that you have space for that for a smaller project. Like it's really rough if you spend 1 week of your 10 just thinking about what you want to build instead of just doing it.
Yeah, I'd say I can totally agree. And one thing that I've realized is so important to really realize in the start of the project is dependencies. Like I'm animator, so I'm very late in the process. Like we have to have 2D concept, we have to have the 3D model, and then I can start rigging and animating. And then the sound guy comes, like, are the attacks done yet? And I'm like, no, they aren't even designed yet. Like, so make this like Google Sheet or whatever, and just take your 10 weeks, and then like, okay, so the 2D guy, he can do concept for this character for like 3 days. Then he can't do it anymore. Like we need to get on with the process. So you don't have the animator, sound guys, the designers sitting there just waiting for a 3D model.
You kind of have to have the waterfall process with that short amount of time and just go with whatever happened.
Whole deadlines.
Yeah,
because it's gonna save so much like irritations from people just sitting and waiting for models or stuff.
And that's maybe the big difference between a timed prototype or project and actually being in a company and wanting to come up with something or test a new feature is that maybe you do more iterations on things in the different lines, but very rarely that time exists in 10 weeks.
You have to finish stuff for the other people to come in and keep working on the item.
Yeah, and that's like you can try to sort of figure that out ahead of time to sort of make that plan, and that's difficult if you haven't done it before.
Yeah.
like understanding, and also like I imagine, I'm not an artist myself, but as a concept artist being told like, well, you get 2 days to do this and then it has to be done, and whatever you have at that point, we're going to take it from you and we're
Yep.
going to build it. And that's,
Thanks for
I
your
imagine, kind of
participation.
rough. Yeah. But it's also, it's like it's part of the whole
Yeah.
thing, whole
Yeah.
process for
Like
building the game.
you can be an artist in your spare time. Like right now you're working.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
So I feel like we're also telling them to make sure to do stuff that's gonna get animated as soon as possible and do the rest of the 3D stuff later on,
Yeah,
maybe.
for sure. Yeah, that's things that you will identify if you do a dependencies flowchart or something, and you'll see like, okay, so this share, it can be done the day before submission. Really, like I can just switch the model, bonk, and then we have the share in the game. But if it's a character with full move set and everything, there's so much people's gonna get like be there and working on it. So, and you'll kind of, yeah, it's easier to identify it if you just get it all on paper.
Yep.
Cool. We have another question from the chat from a good friend of ours, but I'm not gonna spoil it. What are the greatest mistakes you made in terms of planning or working on a project with a tight deadline? Do you have any nightmare stories?
Well, testing too little, like finishing up a 3D model and putting it in the game and realizing by then that the arms are too short or something. Like if you have a sketch of a 3D model, just do a decimation of it, put it in the engine and look at it. That's something, like always iterate, always put it in the engine as soon as possible. If you have if you're sitting in with a locomotion, like a walk animation, just do the key poses and put it in the engine, look at it, like test playing it, like don't finish stuff before you see it in the engine.
Yeah. I think for me, and this sort of ties into, or this was from sort of a much bigger project than a student project, but like not cutting things, even though you're like getting closer to the finish and realizing that, oh yeah, we're not going to be able to do all of this, instead of just sitting down and be like, okay, these things, they're gone. Like we just remove them from the game. Don't try to like downsize them or like, well, maybe if we do this a bit tight. No, just cut it, make it go away, and sort of be done with it. Because sort of trying to juggle like 100 different things as you're getting closer to a deadline it sucks so bad.
Yeah.
And trying to remove that and sort of focusing on quality on the things that you have that are in engine that works the way you want it. That's, I think, something that that's been sort of the biggest mistakes or the biggest problems I've run into has been caused by that.
I liked Lena's point. That was a good one. That was a really good one.
Put stuff in the engine.
Just yeah. It's
As soon
never
as you
the same.
have-
Even if it should be the same or if it should work, borde. Yeah, that's fucking word. It doesn't.
Shoulda,
It
woulda,
doesn't.
coulda.
Yeah.
Sure, it should look good. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I'd say at least for these, if you're inexperienced, make sure that everyone in the team has the technical knowledge enough to put their own stuff into the game, because you're only going to have that much time programming to actually get it all running together. So the more your artists can do on their own, the more the sound people can do on their own, the more the designers can do on their own.
Yes.
You need to get on top of that. You don't expect to only be hanging out in your other tools. You need to be in the engine as well.
Yep.
Yeah. For sure.
Good point.
That's how you get the most out of your game, I'd say. Because rather having programmers do the cool gameplay stuff and get advancing rather than putting stuff into an engine, which you could if you just go through some stuff. Cool. So, what about being a team, new team? You've all been in teams for quite some time. What would you say is the hardest part about working in a team, and your best tips for starting up a new team and getting a project going?
Well, I have you have to let people do their jobs. Like, trust people. Like, don't, if you are like a team leader or CEO or anything, you can't handle everything. You have to delegate. And it's the same with like 2D. Sure, you can have feedback and stuff, but let 3D do their job. Let programming do their job, and just trust each other.
I'd also say, sorry, you can.
No.
No, I can maybe add also the somewhat of a be humble and be a team player. There's not going to be so many super cool main characters you're going to do in your 10-week game, but you need people to do everything, and it's the working together part that is important, and not that you're going to showcase. This isn't where you're going to showcase that you're the best 2D or 3D or programmer or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're the best. You need to work together and do the shit that needs to get done. So try and really find that the fun in helping your teammates.
Yeah, it's just school. Like, enjoy the time, be nice to each other.
I can't echo enough what both Stefan and Lena says. Like that, being humble and considerate towards each other, like super important. Helping out, and also sort of opening up and asking for help. Like if there's something where you're stuck, talk to people, figure things out together. Like no one's an expert. Even out in the real world, or sort of in game studios across the globe, like people are learning things constantly and asking for help, and like that's a big part of the game development process. So don't be afraid for doing it, because that's something that I've seen from time to time, and I've experienced myself. It's like I feel like I should know this, but I'm not really sure. Like, okay, then ask someone who probably does, and if they don't, then you'll figure it out together. That's
people usually love teaching stuff they know. Like, just use that.
Yes.
How do you have any tips for a new team to come together on a project? Like, how should they approach this new big thing in front of them as a group?
Alcohol?
It's not for everyone.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, it's a kind of good point. Like, you don't have to drink alcohol, but do something together, like a group activity. Right now, you can have like a digital get together, drink whatever you like, play some games together. Just have this nice starting phase with a group, where everybody says they have their best group, and just.
I would say, I mean, I agree with that point, but I also want to sort of say that I don't think like you necessarily all need to be like the best of friends.
No.
It's not like you have to be friends for life or whatever, but like getting to know people and sort of understanding how they work and what they like, and sort of who they are as a person helps a lot in terms of like understanding how they communicate, and sort of help smooth out any miscommunications and stuff later on. So those things are super important. And even if they're not like your best friends for life, they might be your future co-workers, or might be people that you're gonna hire at some point later on in your career. Like, it's super useful to understand and get to know people.
I came up with a good one. Have your first fight early.
Oh, yeah.
Also.
Yes.
Marriage game development.
Don't drag it out like
Yes.
Well, yeah, okay.
Don't have
think,
it week 8 and everything needs to get together, and don't have it then. Have it week 3 or 4.
You have to have a fight.
No, but I think it's like if you feel like something's not working, like if you feel like the designers are dragging out too much and not really finishing their tasks, or if it's like the art direction going some weird place and you don't really understand it, like bring it up early. Like don't wait. It's better to sort of ask those questions and sort of have those discussions as early as possible, both for the project and for you as people, like understanding where everyone's coming from before that.
Yeah. Make sure everybody understands dependencies. Like I know I am,
for instance,
speaking about that again now, but very important.
Yeah.
What about...
I agree with Stefan, but I don't think you have to have a fight. Like it doesn't have to be fists flying and blood everywhere.
No, that should not
excessive.
be the case. Hopefully, that's not how people tend to solve disagreements. But yeah, I think communication is definitely key. Bring it up, discuss it, and also I think here, as Lena said, let people do their job, and like design. You should always do testing, take in a lot of feedback, but the designer should still have mandate when it comes to design, right? So you can nag them, but sometimes someone needs to be able to say, like, this is how we're going to do it. And you just have to live with that, even though it's not how you would have chosen to do it if it was up to you. But now we're a team, and this part of the team.
Be humble.
Yeah, and that was a good point, with don't take the democratic process too far, with everyone's vote being equally all the time and doing the hand raises for every single thing. That's not.
Yeah,
you don't
design
make games
has
that way.
veto in design questions and such.
So yeah, be humble. Always take feedback, but consider it and know why you chose not to do it and explain that. Because that's how communication works well, or best, I'd say. How do we get everyone to know what we're actually doing? Do you have any good tips there? I mean, someone has probably pitched a game with like a one-pager and an idea. What now? What are we building?
Well, for the one, like this is aimed to the one pitching the idea. Like your idea, it isn't gonna be your idea in the end. Like the group, they are gonna ruin it. They are gonna apply their own ideas to it, and you have to live with it. You can't be like, you have to respect that everybody's gonna add their creativity and ideas to the idea.
Yeah, like you might come up with the idea, but it's not your game.
No.
So it's not a democratic process, but you're also not a dictator.
Exactly.
That's what
I kind of like if the one, I don't know how it works in the Spjuth project now, but if the one that pitched the idea is maybe not even involved, or not like the creative driver when in the team, then in order to really remove that connection.
Yeah, I think that's one way of doing it. I think it's more useful maybe to do it and learn from that process, because like my experience within games at least has been that whoever is the ideas person, like whoever comes up with the idea, is usually the one person who ends up being a creative director or someone who's like pushing the project forward and understanding how that process should work, like getting feedback and understanding and then sort of molding and shaping that game idea into a game is something really useful to learn and sort of see for yourself. And I think sort of cutting that part out or making that easier maybe is less useful. This is maybe pure speculation, but I think there is some value in like butting heads with those types of questions as early as possible.
I know that everybody's gonna be very like excited to start working, but don't forget to do the planning, to just make sure that the idea is written down, and like what assets do you need, what design do you need, so it's clear on paper and everybody can access that document and just check like, okay, this is what we decided.
Yeah, and I think again this is me speaking as producer, but like doing estimates and sort of looking at the plan for the game is also a great way of helping everyone understand what the game is. Like if a programmer says I need 5 weeks to do this, and the creative director is like, but I thought this would take a day. Like, okay, there is a difference in what you understand either about the process of creating something in code or what we are actually doing for the game. Like something's off here, and use that to sort of communicate what the game is and what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very useful, but again, I'm a producer, so I like those types of things.
Yeah, I remember my game project too. Actually, at university, we had a programmer. The problem for I was project managing the team. The problem for me was that I could not control the programmers, telling them what we needed to prioritize. We said we needed collision. This was back in the days when we didn't have the engines and stuff. So as we said, it's a bit more other stuff. Some stuff we get for free now. So he started making one type of collision, but he felt it maybe was not really spot on what he wanted to achieve. So he changed it to another type of collision. But it wasn't really spot on what he was trying to. So in the end, we had actual, 3D collision in a game that was top down. Took him 6 weeks. And then I moved the shaders down on the priority list, which is actually physical list. I just took it and just put it down. And he loved shaders. He's like, Tao, I thought you were an artist. I'm like, yeah, but you made collision for 6 weeks. No time for shaders. So keep track of the progress as well. It's like, as we said, do what has to be done first. Do core.
Yep.
And add everything extra as a bonus by prioritizing.
Yeah, and design. Don't wait for a character. Start playing like around with a sphere or something. Like I've seen that also. Like, oh, we can't play this because we don't have the animations. Like, but you still can do the timing and the speeds and the hit points, and you can do so much without getting the right assets. Just white box the level.
Yes.
Like the game should be fun when there is no asset, just like a white level with the boxes and spheres and primitives. Like
I think that is like a symptom if your game idea is too much based on it needs to have all the pieces. It needs to be that game that is actually quite straightforward, but just needs the 4 years of polish time to be good. That's not what you're supposed to do in a game project, and that I think that is a good thing to try and figure out if you're doing that or not. Yeah, you should be able to have fun with a box that's doing the thing. It doesn't need to be the perfect animation for it. Of course, that just enhances.
It's gonna make it feel juicy and look nice and everything, but it should be fun with the box as well.
So find the fun. Back at that.
And play with the box.
Find the fun in the box, yes. We have a question from the chat here. Stefan mentioned the need for waterfall in these small projects. What do you recommend as a planning model for 11 people in a 10-week project? To add 11 inexperienced people in a 10-week project. They won't have Jira.
I wouldn't recommend Jira for a 10-week project, experienced or not. I think, like, honestly, a 10-week project, a waterfall makes the most sense in terms of.
I mean, sticky notes, whiteboard, whatever. I think it's manageable with very many different tools that are available. Yeah.
Yes.
You just want colored bars with different names on them.
Yeah. I think if you really want, like, a tool or a model, something, a Gantt schedule would help show those dependencies that Lena talked about, and that might be the most helpful to you. Then again, don't go overboard. Like there's so much stuff that's going to pop up, and you're going to have to do things on the fly and change priorities and all those things. So it's not worth it, like having anything cumbersome or big. That being said, I think I don't know if there's like any talk about like planning models or project management models at the courses nowadays, but looking into stuff from Agile might be nice. There's things that are kind of universal within the games industry, even in projects that are kind of waterfall-esque in their way of doing things, in terms of like having daily stand-ups is nice to get sort of a feel for what everyone's doing, and sort of a great place for you to lift concerns or issues or blockers, things like that. Working as much as you can with iteration, like it's really difficult to do that in that such a sort of short amount of time, maybe, but evaluating and learning from and improving things is a great way to sort of to make the game better in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Okay. Have a show and tell each Friday, and speak about what you've done, and if you've encountered any problems. Make sure that the full team is updated on processes, and that everybody just feels like they know what's going on.
I realized one thing I didn't get to mention before as well. That's a good way to get the whole team to know what you're working towards is to do fake screenshots early on.
Yeah.
Do a mock-up screenshot. Paint, let the 2D art people make that, or overlay.
Paint over the box that you have as a character.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. So you know what you're actually. This is what it's supposed to be in the end. So everyone's working towards the same thing. It's been very useful for us, and we still use that. It's also to get to feel. It's a bit of the concept part, but also to actually get, with HUD and everything. So because it gives a feel of the gameplay as well.
What you just quickly mentioned, there's also quite fun reflection that the way that we worked in Spelprojekt 2 and just what we learned the first time, honestly, it's still much of those experiences you have with you now 10 years afterwards.
Yeah.
And I mean that was that experience that we started the company with. So it's interesting to see that what we learned there is what gets brought to the real game, to the real stuff.
I think that's a great tip, Tao. I think something that I've also learned is like using other games as prototypes. Like, oh yeah, we like this mechanic, but we want to change it in this way. Like giving something concrete to sort of look at or talk about without necessarily having to build it or draw it or paint it yourself. Can be really nice. It's really sketchy for a 10-week project, because like comparing yourself to like the AAA games is, it's going. No, you're not going to be close to whatever it is you're trying to do. But sort of understanding that you can sort of borrow and steal stuff from other games, and using that to communicate your game is one way of doing things as well.
Don't be afraid to mimic, and like people have done a lots of mechanics and just stolen them from each other, and it's still fun. Like the mechanic, don't reinvent the wheel. Like, just if you like something from a game, just nick it.
Yep.
Make your own.
Cool. We got some comment in the chat that they've actually had a Scrum lecture recently, and I mean, Agile or Scrum is the most common used method, I'd say, in the games industry today. In our companies, how would you say they'd approach? How would they approach Agile on a 10-week project? How would you plan?
You're saying that you're Agile, but you're not.
Yeah.
That is very common in a lot of the game projects as well, because we can't be true Agile I mean, okay.
You're taking the buzzwords and some of
Yeah.
the good things with it, but you're not gonna have time for it in 10 weeks to do it that way, and it's.
But I think the
No.
thing we can take.
It's a good
is-
thing. I'm not saying that it's bad that they're learning it. Just to be clear, I think it's a very good thing that they're learning it. But just to get the stuff done, and
I think like maybe trying to build up like a backlog of tasks, like these are the things we want to do, prioritize them to make sure that you're doing the most important ones first and understanding the dependencies within that list. Like we can't prioritize the animations if we don't have the model yet. Like the model has to come first, right? So those things are useful. Again, I'm not sure like for 10 weeks if it's worth like building a backlog. Maybe. It depends on if you want to spend that time and how big it's going to be. But it might also be a way to sort of control scope. Like if you're getting bored of writing your backlog, then your scope is probably way too big for the game. So.
Yeah. Do people know what backlog is?
Maybe. I mean, if they've had a lecture on Scrum and Agile, then I hope so. But backlog is basically, this is the project broken down into tasks or user stories, and you start just working from the top, basically the most prioritized ones in general.
Yep.
Yeah.
it is kind of a agile process, but with just one loop that you have time for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, test your game and be ready to change something if it's not fun, I would say, if you have the chances. We do. I mean, I know they aim to have something playable in week 5. They have a milestone there where they're supposed to let people know what they've been up to. So at least, I mean, after that they have 5 weeks of making more out of it. So yeah, that's probably what they should be doing. That's true. So, I mean, compared to back in our days, I think they get something playable sooner than we are quite used to. Not the last week. Most of the teams, but it also varies with the teams, of course.
Yeah, and that's also like, I don't know, and this is from that old perspective, that they can probably get a lot of stuff and some grand visions because of the tools they're using. I'd still, though, I think recommend not like looking at how easy it is to start adding stuff and do that, because it's just going to be very hard to maintain and very hard to find that core when you have so much different things. I mean, you could basically have a multiplayer mobile game, what you think is that in a week or two, but then it spirals to more than you can chew off.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another question from the chat. Are big detailed design documents necessary, or should focus be on communicating ideas in the group through other methods?
I think I love big detailed design documents. Like, it's my Bible.
Oh, really?
It says here that I'm gonna do this.
I think in my previous life, before I was a producer, I was a designer, and I didn't really like those because they tended to be very kind of monolithic, and like the truth is the document, and keeping those documents up to date is really hard. And I think it's fine to sort of have the general gist of things like written down, like the structure of the game, sort of showing the game loops and the different characters maybe and all those things, but like having detailed design there, unless you're absolutely sure like this is what we're doing, it's a bit sketchy, especially if people tend to read it and just be like, okay, I'm implementing this, and then you sort of realize 2 weeks later that, oh, okay, that's not actually what we wanted. That was our first idea that we wrote down and then kept sort of iterating on, but never actually updating the document. So that's why I don't mind them as a principle, but I just think they're kind of difficult to work with in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's a good point. You have to always keep them updated and make sure that people understand what you've written. But I mean, as an animator, if I get like a design on an enemy, and it says that it should attack, like I'd rather get like it should have like light attack, heavy attack, and a grapple. Like that's the information I want. But if it's just like this is the enemy, that's a bit too. Like you have to find a balance there.
Yeah.
Because then I'm gonna go wild. Like if you don't. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like keeping it at that level of detail is probably the best place of doing it. Because I've had design documents where there was like, not only was there like a light, medium, and a heavy attack, there was also like attack timings for each of those attacks and how much damage they did, and all of those like.
If they have played with the box enough, that should be set already. So that would be like cool for me. Like okay, they know this timing works. They know like the speed of these attacks. Like for me, that's just like okay, fine. It's fun. I can still like design arcs and how it should look, but to get that, it narrows down the time that I have to spend before I can actually produce. So I don't see that as a problem, really.
No.
Like I can trust design that they have played with the box then. So
I wouldn't trust design.
But I wouldn't. Okay, so to be clear, I wouldn't polish the animations. I would do the breakdown poses, and I would test it and let them play, not with the box anymore, but with the enemy. And like, are you still liking this timing?
Yeah.
And then they would come like, oh. Change
that
stuff.
Makes sense. Yeah, because that's the sort of the, and again, I'm sort of scared of this because my experience as a designer was in a pretty big company and studio, and there was a lot of like waterfall type processes going on. And if you wrote something down, chances were that someone had read it and made something before you even knew that they had started, basically. There would still be like a few weeks in between, but never really knew exactly what happened everywhere else. So that's why I would be super careful. Again, looking at a smaller project in 10 weeks, that's probably not a big concern. You should have a good idea of what's happening within the rest of the team. So maybe I'm overly cautious in this topic.
And like you mentioned this, that people start without you knowing. We have this like at Pieces, we have something called handover meetings. Basically, like design reaches their milestone, like we can now give this to the animators, and this is what we have come up to. Here's the document, blah blah blah. Okay, we have now acknowledged that you have gotten this task, so we don't start with something that they haven't finished. Kind of.
That's sounds like a really good thing that I'm probably going to steal.
yeah, it's great actually to just like. Pick someone from each discipline. Like this is the handover of this level.
Cool. Okay, and also we have a comment from John Daniel Ström, your coworker.
No.
Apparently, he doesn't think you'll do your job here. His comment is when it comes to the sprint thing is that daily stand-ups, working with sprints, the 2-week iteration thing mostly, creating a backlog and working with clear priorities are great. Having a scrum master, not so relevant. Do we agree?
Yeah.
Do you think he's right, or should we ban him from the chat?
I don't have enough. I'm scared of disagreeing with him, so I'm not going to say.
Okay.
Well,
he's very much
long in this project.
I think 2-week sprints in a 10-week project makes no sense. I think you would probably have 1-week sprints.
Yeah,
that's true.
If you want to try iterating on things.
And I would say the core of Agile is the ability to iterate, like good enough and fix everything that's needed now, fix the rest later.
Yep.
Yes.
So as long as you're doing that, you're ish agile. It's just it's just a buzzword.
Yeah, and I think if you're having trouble with that probably means your scope is too big. Like if you can't finish things in a sprint, or like feel like you can't iterate on it the next sprint because there's other things you need to do, that probably means a bit overscoped.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Some things take time. Like if you're doing multiplayer for whatever dumb reason, that's not really something you should be doing for a 10-week project. But if you're doing multiplayer,
I've seen it happen.
Yeah,
with good
we've seen
results.
it. It comes
Well,
up at least 1 or 2 projects a year now.
Yeah.
I guess that was when I did mine. Then that was a really dumb thing because none of the engines we had access to really supported that in a great way. So
Yeah.
but that's
It is harder.
That's not going to happen. Like you're not going to implement a full like multiplayer solution for your game in a week, most likely. Yeah. So so figuring out sort of how to manage that is, I guess, part of understanding what agile means as well.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're doing sprints and iterations, you have to make sure that you don't have anything other than polish planned, like the last weeks, because then that's when you're gonna get your work done, like making sure the game is also polished.
Yeah.
Like I prefer that way of working because it's easier to quickly get a feel for the game.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question on my list. Well, my list is all screwed up. One question we have not taken from my list yet. Let's see. What do you think they should aim to? I mean, there are like 7 different disciplines nowadays in the, so they all have different things to get out of a game project, I guess, more than the teamwork and getting a feel of doing a whole game together. What do you think? How do they get the most value out of their game project? Should they do portfolio stuff, or should they do just focus on the team thing, or any other?
I would say, sort of echoing on what we talked about in the beginning, like focusing on the cohesive experience, like building the game play, the game experience, and understanding how you fit into that. Like Lena mentioned, sort of the second year project is where you kind of tend to start to understand that, and it's a great way to sort of test out your theory and your understanding of what does it mean to be a designer on a project, what does it mean to be a 3D artist on a project, what does it mean to be a programmer on a project. So I think that's sort of a one of the most useful things you can bring with you from that. Like doing portfolio stuff you can do in your spare time, and like Stefan said, you're not going to prove that you're the best programmer or best designer ever within those 10 weeks in that big of a group. Like there's no way. So focus on doing things together and understanding that collaborative aspect of game development, I think.
Yeah. And learn the softwares. Like don't hesitate to like look at tutorials and just delve into whatever you're sitting with.
Yeah.
Because this is a great time to just work a lot.
Yeah.
You don't have any like assignments to write or academic stuff going on. You just have to just be creative and work in the like with what game development actually is mostly.
Yeah, I mean, don't just see it as a course to get through.
Yeah.
It really isn't. This is what it's about.
Yeah, and it's also like surprisingly, for me at least, it was surprisingly close to the real life experience of being a game developer. I remember, because I was part of the Ghost Games as a designer for a while, and I remember like my first days there was like, okay, now this is serious, like this is going to be no more fooling around, this is like proper game. No, it's a game project with like hundreds of people and millions of dollars, and it's the same thing basically. It's just bigger. So use whatever you can and like extract as much experience from those 10 weeks being part of that group and building those things together. It's going to be awesome. It's really useful.
Okay, so we're running out of time. We did get a comment. Do you mean multiplayer as in online or also local multiplayer?
Yeah, online is definitely a lot more. Doing split screen stuff is fairly easy. in a lot of ways. I
Do you
think
think they
Stefan is
mean
probably-
LAN?
Does
Is that a
that
thing
exist
anymore?
anymore?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
it's
So-
all in the cloud, man. Like
Mm.
there's nothing local anymore. But
Yeah,
I
no.
guess Stefan is
Stefan,
the
you're a
expert.
programmer at heart, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, again, it's that delusion of you can press play in editor and add 2 players in Unreal Engine. Yes, you can do that. That's not what it's about. There's more to it once you start doing your game, and you don't want to end up with like, oh, why isn't that effect playing on the person that's looking on the client from the server's perspective? I don't get it.
Yeah.
So sure, it is a learning experience that you will learn from, but it would be, I think, you'd have more fun in the game project if you'd focus on a single player thing. But it's hard to say that you shouldn't do it if you feel that like you have a cool idea. Maybe just don't delve too deep into the networking magic of it when you find all the issues there. Just go with it, and it's not going to be a fully QA'd game released on Xbox with the TCR tests and whatnot. Just do it and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so last fantastic words to share before they start their new projects or hobby projects or whatever is coming up. What should they think about?
Well, I have something. Don't really use your best idea, like your little baby, for this project, because people are gonna botch it, and you're gonna get trouble if you want to keep working on it after the gaming project, because then people have added their ideas in it, and you have to untangle your idea to make it like. I'm not sure how illegal it would be to actually keep working on it, but you're gonna have to like remove the people that you don't want to keep working with, because it's their property, like their idea and their art and everything. So
Yeah, if you think you want to keep going with the thing, make sure the whole team's on it, or you'll have to sort it, definitely. We've done that as well. Game Project 3, Stefan, Game Project 2, taking it forward as a company or a release or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying with like, you're not gonna maybe even be able to do the thing if it's an idea that you're really fond of. But at the same time, it's also a nice opportunity, and I don't know.
It's hard.
I see this as get hyped, do some cool shit, and look at the track record of Lime. I mean, it has actually meant a lot for game studios in Skövde or in Sweden and in the world for what we've done in Spelprojekt 2. So have some see some like pride in that and what you can accomplish, and what the starting fire can lead to. So really be hyped for that.
Yeah.
But maybe address this thing early on so that everyone in the project knows what they're working towards. Do people want to work on this project after? Would it be okay with other people of the team working on it after and taking full ownership? So you have that sorted quite early on. So as well as like, 10 weeks you can do this. If half the team thinks they want to keep doing stuff afterwards, it's good to know that, because you'll have so different mindsets while working together on this. For some it's just a start. For some it's something that's supposed to be finished.
That's also going to be part of the journey to if it in the end leads to you wanting to do something, you're going to have to make tough decisions and trim the fat of the team as well. But that's out of the scope of the project. I don't think focus too much on that. Just have fun and make a game.
You can't really start your first company with like 16 people.
Hey!
If you don't have any. Okay, sometimes.
There's always exceptions. Yeah.
The only thing we got told for
Would you say it was a wise decision?
I mean, we couldn't have done it with less people.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's probably not what I'd recommend. But we did get to skip some of the steps, I think, that other smaller companies get, like 16 people. You can't be one group because it's more than 10, and then group dynamics change. That means so when adding new people to the team, it's probably easier because there's still smaller groups within. So I mean, there are pros and cons with everything. It's very expensive. That's I think
very
is the
expensive.
most troublesome part of being a lot of people. But we were also making a very ambitious game because it wasn't. We did everything we just told you not to do. Don't make an online game. Don't be crazy amount of people when you start a company. Don't. We did all of that.
Yeah,
So
and I think
you can do it, but damn, you need to put in a lot of effort.
Yeah,
And it's not
I
always
think,
fun to be a game developer.
No, it's not. But I think we've all tried to sort of share all the like things we wish that we did, or like the smart things.
Yeah.
In the end, I'm sure a lot of the people are going to ignore that, consciously or not. But I think, sort of echoing what Stefan said, just have fun. Like, do it. It's really fun creating games for the most part. And embrace that feeling. And also, like, reflect on things, like try to understand what it all means and how it feels for you, and how you fit into all of these things. It's really important, I think.
And we look forward to the competition in the end.
Okay, I think we're kind of wrapping up. Let's see. We have some other questions we don't have time to take now. Where do you want to start if you're interested in working with as a producer? Learn the basics of Agile, I guess, and manage your teams, your hobby projects, whatever.
Yeah, I think try to take some responsibility for just helping out with the planning and like taking charge of that. Talk to your team before doing that. Like, don't just like, no, I'm in charge now, I decide. But like, ask them to sort of give you that responsibility and help out. I think it's a good way to do that.
Cool. Are we? No one get any last ideas of what you have to share? What should you not do? Don't do multiplayer. You said. At least not online multiplayer.
Well, you can
unless you really have a great idea and you think you can do it in 2 ways. It's just getting. It's kind of like the collision, right? If it's gonna take you 6 weeks just to get the multiplayer going, you're gonna have very little amount of time to actually create the game. So make sure you know what you're gonna be doing with that little time you have to get it. Find the fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Should we? Are we done then?
And be kind to each other.
And humble.
Have a good time. Listen to each other. People are assholes. You're gonna just accept it.
People are assholes.
Be kind. People are
Yeah,
assholes.
if someone is an asshole, just don't be an asshole back. Just like be zen.
I think that's a good point.
Cool. I think we're done. I want to thank all of our panelists for sharing their knowledge and thoughts. And of course, there's always the Discord, so if you have questions during your Game Project 2 or other hobby projects or any project you're working on, send out your questions. There's people there who'd be happy to help. Just as Lena said, people love teaching stuff they know. You feel really great helping people. Yeah, you feel smart and nice. And that tends to be very, very valuable for people. So don't hesitate. We're there. Maybe we're idling, but as soon as there's something to jump on, people will. Thanks for spending this time with us, and I hope to see you next panel, and good luck with your future project.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It was fun.
Thank you for inviting us.
Bye, people.
Bye.
Hello.